Are y'all ready to head off the trails? I'm the Cryptid Huntress, Jessica Jones, and I'm ready to take you on a mysterious journey right now. We welcome you to Off the Trails right here on the Spaced Out Radio's YouTube channel. If you guys haven't hit subscribe yet, please do. We would love to have you guys. And shout out to Bumblefoot for that awesome intro music. I always appreciate that. All right, you guys, follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. You guys can find me at thecryptidhuntress.com. That's my website where you can find all of my shows, all the events I'm going to be at, all the information y'all need on me is on that website. Also, if you'd like to support what I do, all my work, you can join my Patreon. That's the Cryptid Huntress over on Patreon. Also, I have a shop that's called War Woman Goods. Oh my gosh, I just uploaded some more jewelry into the shop today. So you guys go check that out. It makes for great Christmas gifts. Okay, by the way, that's over on Etsy. And also you can find some of my bigger goods over on my website at thecryptidhuntress.com in the shop. Okay, if you'd like to support Spaced Out Radio and what we're doing over here on this channel, we have a Patreon here, and it's called the Space Travelers Club over on Patreon. So you guys go become a member of that if you'd like to support Spaced Out Radio. All right, y'all. Man, do we have a fantastic show tonight. I have my buddy Dennis Carroll here in the studio. We're going to be talking about the Christmas demon tonight. And who better to bring on Spaced Out Radio to talk about the Christmas demon than my resident demonologist, Dennis Carroll. Okay, don't forget that right after this show, After Hours has a fantastic program set up for us tonight. Okay, so let's get to the show, shall we? All right. Well, tonight we're exploring the devilish monster of Christmas, Krampus. Every year in early December, children in Austria get ready for St. Nicholas to visit them. And if they've been good, they get rewarded with presents, toys, candy, treats, things like that. But if they've been bad, they get way more than just a lump of coal. They get a visit from Krampus. Okay, Krampus, the half man, half goat, who chases naughty children around and potentially drags them to hell. Oh my God, what a horrible, horrible thing to have to worry about when you're a kid. Okay, as if we don't have enough problems in this world. Okay, so to help me discuss this tonight, I have Dennis Carroll here. Dennis is a well-known authority on folklore, legends, superstitions, cryptozoology, and the occult. He's a supernaturalist and paranormal consultant who's advised people throughout the world. Dennis is a published freelance writer and author who's written several books based on supernatural events. He's an ordained minister and a photographer, a well-known UFO and cryptid researcher, and a speaker who performs lectures and presentations on culture, folklore, myths, and legends. You can find Dennis on his YouTube channel, Hunting the Shadows. Please help me welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight for this very Merry Christmas Krampus special, Dennis Carroll.
Good evening.
Hey, Dennis.
It's a dark, foggy night out there. It's a perfect night for our subject.
Ooh, it is. I can't wait to talk about Krampus. I don't think I've ever talked about Krampus on a show before, not in depth. So this is going to be a lot of fun tonight.
Oh, he is a bad guy, and we're warning you kids now. You better straighten up because Krampus is going to come looking for you, definitely. And we're kind of safe though, Jessica, because Krampus's night is December 5th, okay? We made it through that. But here's the interesting thing. That's his night when he's supposed to appear. But the interesting thing about Krampus is he can show up anytime between then and Christmas if he makes a special trip for someone, okay? So you're not in the clear completely if you're not careful with this guy.
Oh man, I tell you what, like if I had known about Krampus when I was a kid, I would have been on the straight and narrow all year because I would have been so worried that Krampus was going to crawl out from under my bed and grab my feet and take me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. The one thing I think about the Krampus, is he's kind of an invention to kind of keep the kids in line. If you get out of line, you better watch out for this guy. But he's also the personification of a complete opposite of Santa Claus. The good saintly guy that does good deeds and loves children, This guy is the complete opposite of old Saint Nick, and that's what makes him so very interesting. You have another sort of a reverse mirror image thing going on here, and the fact that here's another thing about the Krampus, which makes him even more scarier. He carries a bundle of switches to whip you with if you've been bad, but it doesn't stop there. If you've really been really bad, and you like don't go to church and you don't do what you're supposed to do, and you don't do your household chores and all that, he puts you in the basket on his back, takes you to hell, and then eats you alive.
Oh man. And it's not it's just children. It's not really the
Uh,
adults, right?
mhm. Well, it can be adults. Adults have been supposedly victims of Krampus as well. And if you look at some of these old cars, Krampus is a very prevalent thing in Germany and Finland, Norway, places like that, and sort of the northern climes of Europe.
Okay.
He's very prevalent there. But you know, the Krampus or something very similar to him goes all the way to Spain. So it's very prevalent, and it wasn't very well known here in this country until just a few years back. That people started talking about the Krampus, but he was very well known, especially in Germany and places like that. Um, it's a complete opposite of Father Christmas.
Oh, yeah, I'll say, because it goes from Saint Nicholas to a demon.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah,
whoa,
yeah.
that's the yin and the yang, right?
I can't. I'm going to be doing a show pretty soon on my podcast about Santa Claus, the very many Santa sightings. And here's what I say about Santa: he was the first original superhero. Okay, and then if you look at it the other way, Krampus is the very first supervillain. Okay,
Huh.
that's the way that goes,
Oh wow,
without doubt.
how far back does Krampus go, Dennis? Do you know around the time that people started acknowledging Krampus?
Medieval times, definitely. It definitely goes back in there. He's been around as long as the legend of Santa Claus, definitely, without a doubt. Like I said, he's the opposite of it. He goes in. He sort of works. Here's the weird thing about it, Jessica. He kind of works in conjunction with Santa Claus. You know, Santa is doing the good stuff, and then for the good kids, he's getting the bad kids and all that. So there's sort of an uneasy alliance between them. It's very interesting in that respect. Um, they say, yeah, that he didn't really work for Santa Claus, but like I said, they had an agreement, you might say. You take care of the good kids, and I'll take care of the bad kids, kind of thing.
It sounds like the typical good cop, bad cop scenario.
Back up, yeah,
Yeah, he's the
definitely.
demonic bad cop.
All
Yeah.
right.
Wow.
Yeah. But
What?
Krampus, if you look at him, if you look at his representation, I mean, this guy is a demon. Okay, that's what he basically is. He looks like a devil. Look at the horns. And he may go back to, like you said earlier, being his half man, half goat looking thing, because he has cloven hooves, which is what the devil has too, supposedly. The old medieval aspect of the devil, he had cloven hooves, like a goat. That's why the symbol, a satanic symbol, is a goat, by the way. And that comes from the Bible, separating the sheep from the goats, the good guys from the bad guys. And the goats got hung with the bad guys, okay? But if you take a look at him, does he not also remind you of something else? The god Pan, which was very well worshipped in a lot of Eastern Europe and places like that, along with Greece and other places as well. He reminds you very much of Pan, and we also talk. We've also talked a lot about the cryptid known as the Goat Man, which I've often wondered if that isn't some kind of a faun, as they used to call it, or a dryad type of a thing that lived in the forest, very much like the god Pan was supposed to be, a nature spirit. In other words, so here's an interesting tie-in, Jessica, between the Krampus and the Green Man. The Green Man is sort of, a spirit of nature as well, but he's very prevalent in the winter months. So you get a lot of tie-in with that. And the Green Man, though, is very malevolent. Not malevolent, but benevolent. He's a very good guy. He's sort of a guardian of the forest and stuff. But in winter, he's depicted as having holly and ivy on him and mistletoe and all that. And a lot of this is very, very paganistic and symbolic in that respect. But when I think of Krampus, I always think a little bit of Pan too, because there's a very, very distinct similarity.
Yeah, I do too. Now, we have looked into Goatman on my shows before. Here at Spaced Out Radio, I had Jason McLean on one night, and we talked about all the Goatman sightings in Texas. There's so many Goatmen over there. But there's been Goatman sightings and reports and since the beginning of time. Okay. And so this is just part, I guess it's just part of that genre, I guess, so just the Goatman. Even though we do have Goatman sightings to this day. And as a matter of fact, I was assigned a remote viewing target of the Jersey Devil. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And actually, I thought what I was looking at, because it was a blind target, I was actually looking at something that looked like a goat man. And that is a present day cryptid, okay, that we have here in the United States.
Well, there's supposed to be, Jessica, a satanic connection with that, okay? Mother Leeds and all that was supposedly had some kind of a deal with the devil. But here's the interesting thing about the goat man, the tie-in with the satanic symbolism and all that. That the devil is supposed to appear as a half man, half goat sometimes. That is called a Baphomet, by the way. And it is a very prevalent satanic symbol. You see that at the Church of Satan and all that stuff. And so you're getting into some very demonical territory here. You got a lot of smell of sulfur going on here, definitely, when you talk about these kinds of entities, especially one like the Krampus. He is very, and here's another interesting thing: the tie-in to where does he, like you said earlier, where does he take the kids when he kidnaps them? He takes them where? Hell. And that's where he comes from. So that makes him very demonical, without doubt.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. I mean, in some of the places where I was researching this today and yesterday, because I didn't know a whole lot about Krampus, and I had to be able to keep up with you tonight, Dennis. I had to try at least, and so I was reading that they weren't saying hell in a lot of the articles I was reading and things. They were saying the underworld. Okay, so it wasn't like hell, but there were a couple of articles I read. It was hell. Okay, but the underworld is hell, basically, right? So, but yeah, it just sounds worse to hear that they're dragging children to hell. Gosh, and one of my favorite Christmas movies now. Okay, and I love good wholesome family fun Christmas movies. But my son and I know I say my son, he's just a kid, but he wanted to watch that Krampus movie. There's a Krampus movie.
Oh yeah.
And it was pretty terrifying, but it's such a great movie. And that's how I really learned about Krampus, was from that movie last year or the year before last. I highly recommend that Krampus movie. I don't know what it's called. It's called Krampus, I think.
I think that was the name of it. Yeah, Krampus.
Yeah, great movie.
He goes after a whole family in that, and it's a very dysfunctional and very bad family, and they kind of deserve in a way what they get, definitely. He is sort of a what you might say, a demonical type cop in that respect. He's kind of enforcing certain precepts of the universe when he goes after these bad people, trying to straighten them out. It's very interesting, and the twist and the turn to it with Krampus. But here's one more thing about Krampus that we need to think about, and that is that he is depicted in the early days as being female. For a certain extent, that didn't seem to catch on as much as the male Krampus, but there was a female Krampus depiction. That was very interesting. So you always hear about goat man, but you hear about goat women, and that was very interesting. I thought, yeah, definitely.
Wow. Okay, so from what I can recall, is that sometimes these characters like Krampus, and it's like this in a lot of movies where families get attacked and stuff, it's because it was almost like they got too much into the consumerism of Christmas and the holidays. Okay, and that's how a
Oh
lot of these.
yeah.
It's like the moral of the story is it's all about the little things, not about buying stuff. It's about having your family surrounding you and to pay attention to your kids and things
Oh,
like that.
definitely. Yeah. If you disrespect Christmas, you can expect a visit from Krampus. That's the way that goes. So that's like I say, he's sort of an enforcer of the Christmas kind of a thing. You know, if you
Yeah,
keep it straight and good the way it's supposed to be, wholesome and all that, you don't have to worry about Krampus. But if you step out of line, you better watch your back.
yeah, you better, or you're going to get hit with a stick. Now, he
Yeah.
seems pretty abusive, Dennis. Pretty abusive.
Uh-huh.
So he's actually not just putting kids in a basket and taking them to the underworld. He's hitting them with birch sticks and stuff.
Yeah, he's eating them alive. I mean, in certain
Oh,
instances, he's cannibalistic in that respect, and it's very much like. And there's been some comparison drawn with Krampus to the Wendigo, in that respect. Although they're two completely different things, there are some similarities in the way these things work. And one more. Here's another little sideline for you. What if the Grinch and Krampus are cousins at least? You know. You got some kind of monster thing going on here with the Grinch and the Krampus. Was Krampus the inspiration for the Grinch? You got to ask that question.
oh, that's a good question. I mean, I've actually heard people argue that the Grinch is actually a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot too.
Yeah,
So I don't know.
all
They're
that
just
hair. Yeah,
tall, hairy, bipedal
yeah,
creatures, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
But as far as I know, though, I've never heard of a green Sasquatch. But maybe there are some. You never know. But he is definitely a monster variety. You take a look at the Grinch; he's a monster, just like Krampus. Krampus is not a good guy. He's basically his very nature is violent and bad, and definitely he's going to be that. That's just what he is. Um, yeah. Instead of delivering, the Krampus takes away. Instead of giving, he gets. And that's the interesting aspect of him. Like I said, he's the complete opposite of good old Saint Nick.
he is.
Yeah, he's
Now,
accountable. He's accountable too. Yeah.
he is a cannibal. Gosh, several cryptids that I've looked into seem to be cannibals, including even the
Uh-huh.
giants. If you want to consider
Uh-huh.
giant humanoids, like the like
Uh-huh.
humans, like the giant of Kandahar and the red-headed giants, they were cannibals. Now, this is so scary, and Krampus is so terrifying to some people that it was actually banned in Austria. Like celebrating Krampus was banned
Uh-huh.
around 1932.
Well, what it was, Jessica, they would have parades of Krampus parades. People would dress up like Krampus. They'd come through the streets, rattling chains, shaking cowbells, and making that would scare kids to death. Think about it. I mean, that would traumatize children to a certain degree, and they would go through the crowds, chasing children and all, and grabbing children and all that. So eventually they said, "Hey, you're really stepping over the line here with this stuff." And you can understand where they're coming from on that, because that would be very traumatic for a child to go through that. Look how many children get scared just sitting on Santa's lap. Think about the Krampus. Well, how scary that would be.
Yeah, I agree 100%. In the 1950s, the government, I believe this was in Austria, they distributed pamphlets titled Krampus is an evil man for fear that encounters with Krampus might damage children's mental health. Speaking of mental health
Uh-huh.
for the kids. So, but towards the end of the century, a popular resurgence of Krampus celebrations kicked back up. It kicked
Yeah.
back up. And now there's like parades all over the country now. I mean, I actually was driving down the road this afternoon or today, or maybe I guess it was yesterday. It was yesterday. And there was somebody dressed up like Krampus walking on on the town square. We're in
Yeah.
the town where we live.
Uh.
Yeah. I
Well,
was so excited.
that's the interesting thing about it, Jessica. There is sort of a lot of people associate some parts of Christmas with horror. You have the different horror movies that, like Silent Night, Bloody Night, and all these other horror movies Christmas has and I've talked about this before, Christmas has a dark side to it. Okay. It has a dark, magical, paganistic kind of unnatural side to it, mystical kind of a feel to it. And some people find that enticing. That entices some people. And of course, we've always liked, it's just human to have fun getting scared in a certain way, as long as you know that what's scaring you is not real, or it's not going to really affect you like a horror movie. But we enjoy getting scared, and I think that's a kind of a sadistic part of our nature, you know. But to force that on children is not good, really, because children are very impressionable, in that respect. I can see where grown-ups would kind of, like Krampus a little bit because of the scary part, but kids, that's the interesting thing. You'd have to watch it with them.
That's right. Okay, so when I was a little kid, I had some really cool aunts. My aunts, my aunties, my aunts, my dad's sisters. Okay, and when I would spend the night at their houses, I had a bunch of cousins. We were all about the same age, and we would spend the night at my grandparents' house, or I'd go to my cousins. And I'll never forget, my aunts would tell stories that would scare us at night, scary stories. And one of those stories that one of my aunts told me was about the devil living under the bed. And the devil at night, if I put my foot or my hand out of the blankets, they would grab my feet at night. That devil was going to grab my feet. So I was terrified. I mean, terrified as a kid, Dennis. To this day, I still don't sleep with my feet outside the blankets. Okay.
That's a well-known fear, Jessica. Definitely the thing under the bed. I think I saw a picture the other day where somebody said when you're asleep, you do not hang your feet off of the bed, because then you're in monster territory. So you got to watch where your feet and your hands go when you're in bed. But here's the interesting thing about that, Jessica. I always find it kind of amusing. You see people jump into bed and they cover their head up. They feel so safe, but that's the most vulnerable place you could be.
That's right.
You're not really safe there at all. And if there's something under your bed, what's going to keep him there? He's going to come out if you don't watch out.
That's right. Universal Sue. Hey, Susan. This is my friend. Actually, Susan's on my team, my Bigfoot team. She says the underworld also represents the unconscious. That's a great point, too, because we're talking about taking kids Krampus takes kids into the underworld. Well, it's something that gets into their subconscious, too, So I don't know. That it's an interesting dynamic.
Well, now the Krampus equivalent in Spain actually kidnaps. Now listen to this. This is weird. Actually kidnaps the children, the bad children, and takes them to his coal mine and makes them work in his coal mine as slaves.
Ew. Oh gosh.
That's weird.
That is weird.
And
coal. Yeah. What about bad children get coal in their stockings, right?
Right, and there you go. That's where the coal comes from, probably. But definitely, I'll put it this way, and that's what I said. I told this to somebody the other day. I'd rather Santa leave coal in my stocking than the Krampus come after me, definitely. You're getting off easy with the coal, people. Okay.
Yeah, you are. You're not getting beaten and put in a sack or a satchel. So, wow. Oh my gosh. Hey, Daryl and Anne-Marie. Hey, Daryl James. These are my friends. I've got so many great people in the chat tonight. I want to thank everybody for being here. It's a good time. So yeah. Some people, Krampus is their favorite. I believe Anne-Marie said that that's Daryl James, y'all. He's been on our show before, or he's on my show, on my channel. But yeah, Krampus is a crowd favorite with a lot of people, Dennis, and so it is with all of these parades and the celebrations. People really get into character when it comes to Krampus.
Yeah, especially when they start shaking those chains and rattling those bells and all that. I mean, it really is it's a sight and sound kind of a thing. But I was going to say this about Krampus being depicted with such a long tongue. Demons are often depicted with very long tongues because that's the sign or symbol of a reptilian tongue. Okay, and so that's part of the demonic symbolism there going on with that. And the horns, okay. And being a monster hunter, I always look for a way that dispatch the monsters. And so we'll talk about that a little bit, about how do you get rid of Krampus if he shows up at your house, what you need to do to dispatch him. There's several different ways to do it. Okay. And one of the main ways is how you take care of most supernatural creatures, entities, is that you burn them alive. You burn them up into ashes and scatter their ashes. You're not going to have any more problem with them. That's the basic way to take care of them. But the Krampus is a little bit different. There's several ways to get rid of the Krampus. Okay. The first way to really get rid of him is sort of take his power away from him without killing him. Okay. If you want to be very humanistic about it and not be so mean and kill him, if you just want to take his power away from him, you cut his horns off. But I don't think he's going to stand there and let you do that. Okay. I don't know. That's going to be kind of difficult to do. You cut his horns off. Definitely.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So do you think that Krampus could ever have been based on something that was actually true or real? Dennis, or do you
But there
think
are many stories down through mankind of these creatures supposedly live in the woods that were half man, half goat, or half horses and half man. There's always a symbolism of man being melded with the animal. That's where your werewolf stories and a lot of these other things come from. This thing about mankind being part of the animals as well. I find that very interesting psychologically, that we would be afraid of something like that. It's very much like the pictures and the movies from all the 1950s with the giant ants and grasshoppers and all that. Gigantic things scare us too, okay? Giants are one of the big things. And another thing, though, is nature gone wild, nature gone unusual and strange. Um, and that's where the Krampus comes in. He's sort of nature, a representation of nature, but he's also a representation of the dark side of the supernatural, the natural and the supernatural. They get together. And he also looks, here's the weird part, looks kind of like a man a little bit. So you've got some weird stuff going on with the Krampus, similarities. But like I said, it goes back to Pan. Was there certain types of satyrs, as they were called, or nymphs that had this attribute that they were part goat and part man, kind of a thing? But if you look at that picture right there, and I find that very interesting, it's almost as if you stuck a Krampus mask on the head of a Bigfoot.
That's right. That's right. A lot of these look like that. They have very long hair. It looks like a demonic Bigfoot. Actually, that's what that looks like.
Yeah. But I think, and I've done a show on this before about the wild man. Okay, the wild man is a legend all over the world. Every culture talks about wild man, which may be a racial memory of the Neanderthals, for all we know. There may have been pockets of them that were left, and our ancestors interacted with them. Anyway, the wild man is depicted very much like that, having a lot of hair on him, and a very, very wild looking face and all that to him. That could be where a lot of the inspiration for the Krampus came from, the legends of the wild men. And if anybody's interested in that, look it up. It's some very fascinating research on the wild man. He's even depicted on some medieval coats of arms in certain parts of the world. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Well, what kind of relationship does all this have? Because it kind of has a paganistic base, right? Like it started off as like a paganistic creature, I guess, but then it kind of bled into like the Christian or the Catholic Church, from what I was reading, somehow. So, I mean, it has some, because of Saint Nicholas, right?
Yeah, well, the church, the early church was just that way. It tried to assimilate a lot of paganistic beliefs, and that happened a lot with Christmas, definitely. But, like I said earlier about the dark side of Christmas, there are other aspects of Christmas that we need to consider other than the Christian aspect of it. But the church tried to assimilate these things, and usually it was not very successful at it. And it became a very strange quasi combination of paganistic and religion thing, Christianity. The interesting thing about Krampus, if you look at him, he's a personification of the devil. Okay, basically that's what he is. And the devil is taught, of course, in religion. He's the bad guy. You don't want to end up with him. he will take you to hell, or you go to hell with the devil. You're in a bad place. And that's where the Krampus comes from. If you were to ask me what the number one inspiration for Krampus would be, definitely the Christian devil
Oh,
symbol.
no
That's
doubt.
exactly what that is. Yeah.
No doubt. Somebody in the chat
Hmm.
earlier had mentioned the Joker card in a deck of cards, playing cards. The Joker card looks similar to Krampus,
Uh-huh.
the Joker,
Yeah.
I guess. So that's an interesting connection too.
Yeah.
Huh.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of representation. Like I said, he's not until about like maybe 15 years ago. You never heard about Krampus. Researchers like me and people like you too, we would have stumbled across him eventually later in our research. And he was very prevalent back in the 1800s, especially. That's where you see a lot of these old cars and stuff from. But he comes way back from medieval times, and a lot of celebration on that. But he was not well known until just a few years ago in this country. Okay. But we had a lot at the beginning of like the 1800s in this country. We had a lot of Germanic peoples immigrate here. A lot of people from Scandinavia. They settled mostly in the northern parts of the United States, but some Germanic people settled in sort of the East Coast as well, in Pennsylvania, places like that. So you had a prevalent knowledge of the Krampus, but nobody outside of those communities talked about him that much until, of course, our mass age of communication came along, and then everybody picked up the Krampus. So he's a very popular guy now, thanks to that.
Oh yeah. Well, I wouldn't have known a whole lot about it had I not seen that movie about Krampus, and it was pretty scary because the creature Krampus was actually jumping on people's roofs, and you could hear his hooves walking on their roof, and he would send little trolls or some kind of like possessed toys down into
Uh,
the air ducts of the house and through the chimney.
he has elves just like Santa, but they're bad elves.
Oh,
Okay, they're not
really?
good elves. Yeah, he has
Okay.
bad elves that help him, helpers that help him out with that, and he also has some demonic creatures that also supposedly help him in that. Here's the interesting thing about Krampus: how does he get in your house? He does the same thing Santa Claus does. He comes down your chimney, which is very interesting. Um, so he has a lot of bad elves that help him though, and they are. And here's it. Where does the Krampus live, Jessica?
In hell? I don't know
No,
where.
he comes from the South Pole.
Okay, the opposite. Oh,
Santa's
okay,
from the
the
North
opposite.
Pole.
Okay.
Krampus comes from the South Pole. Yeah, but I think he visits hell for vacations. I'm not sure about that. I have to ask him next time I see him.
Well, that would make sense that he would be the opposite of Santa. Everything is opposite. It's upside down world, right? Upside down,
Mhm.
the complete opposite. Now, I found this picture really interesting because it almost looks as though they've invited Saint Nicholas and Krampus into this home. It looks like the mom's a little weary,
Mhm.
but dad's like, oh yeah, take our kid
Yeah,
if you have to. He's been bad. Okay. But the parent,
yeah, but
traditionally, are parents scared of Krampus too throughout history, or is it just the children?
and you can tell by that drawing, those kids are kind of traumatized. But look, standing next to the Krampus is Santa Claus. That's him over
That's
there.
right.
That's Father Christmas. Father Christmas, definitely. So they work in conjunction.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, but it's just a story to kind of keep the kids in line, though. I guess you could say,
Oh
right?
yeah, basically, yeah. That was what it was. But very much like a lot of other things that if you don't do this, the boogeyman will get you, kind of a thing. You better be good. You know what? Bad things happen to bad children. They would tell you that very quickly, and you don't want to know what those bad things are. Uh, they would scare you into submission, definitely, from doing stuff. And that was the way parents did a lot of things back in those days. Parents still do that, but different ways nowadays. Like if you don't behave, I'll take your game away from you, or whatever the case might be. Uh, so it's still going on, but just in a very different way. But I think the people back in the old days were very imaginative. Definitely would come up with Krampus and stuff like that. Um,
Yes.
and here's another way. Here's another way to kill Krampus. While I'm thinking about it, the other way to get rid of Krampus is you must stab him through the heart with a holly stake or a evergreen stake. That's the only way to put, sort of like a vampire. That's the only way to take him down. But it has to be an evergreen wood, or it can be in mistletoe as well. But mistletoe doesn't make very big stakes, so you better stick with the holly or the evergreen stake.
Oh my gosh, that's interesting because holly trees and holly branches are traditionally what magic wands are made out of. And so there's a connection between Hollywood and holly sticks and the magic
Yep.
and magicians and all that kind of stuff coming out of Hollywood.
Hollywood, the wood of the holly is considered holy in a way, a very venerated wood. And so is the evergreen because it never dies. It stays green all and it symbolizes eternity. Living forever, immortality. Yeah.
Yes, Barbara Streisand had a song about evergreen and about love being evergreen. She wanted a love that was evergreen because it's.
I remember that very famous Christmas song, Tannenbaum. The Tannenbaum. It is a symbol. It is a pagan symbol, by the way, of eternity and life and fertility. It's tied into Easter in that way, by the way. It's a very strange tie-in. But that was actually the symbol of the god Astar. Or you listen to that name very closely now. Astar and Easter. Same thing. Okay, that's how I got changed into that. Easter, the original Easter, had nothing to do with the crucifixion of Christ. It had all to do about the paganistic stuff, fertility gods and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it kind of adds like a whole other layer to the whole Christmas tradition, having something a demon, coming after kids now, because we like to think, especially here in the United States of America, we like to think of it as being Christmas being about the birth of Jesus. Okay, for those who celebrate, and for those who don't, it's just the history behind it of the tradition, and it's the birth of Jesus Christ, and being in that little tiny baby Jesus in that manger, under the star of Bethlehem. Okay, however, the kids look forward to it because of Santa Claus bringing presents, and yeah, my son's never worried about Krampus. I don't think before.
Well,
maybe I should put some fear into him. So
the interesting thing about that, Jessica, we don't take Krampus very seriously in this country, but overseas they do. In those other countries, he is a very serious consideration in that fact, because here's the thing about it. Christmas is built around traditions. Every family has its traditions. Every culture has its traditions of Christmas. Christmas almost died out. If it hadn't been for Charles Dickens and A Christmas Carol, we would be celebrating a very different Christmas now. Christmas was almost gone. And here's another thing. The early church never pushed Christmas that much. It was just considered a holy day, then you had a church service on, and that was it. So all the traditions that we honor today were brought back to life by Charles Dickens, by the way, because they almost died out. And Krampus is part of that tradition in certain countries, more so than here. Although it's beginning to slowly catch on here, but we're not taking it as serious in modern days as they did in medieval times. But he was the personification of the Christmas demon. And if you didn't do what you were supposed to do, if you weren't good, if you were bad, you had to worry about him, because he was coming to see you if you weren't careful.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Like I said, I wonder if I should put the fear of Krampus into my kid this year. I don't know. He probably just laugh about it. He thinks it's fun. So John has an interesting statement tonight, or a question. Where does the tradition of leaving food offerings from Santa come from? That sounds like fairy lore to me.
Actually, there's a connection with that to Odin, the god Odin, the Viking god.
Okay.
Yeah, they would actually leave things out for Odin. And Odin has a big, strong connection to Santa Claus, okay? The Santa Claus we know is not really the same one that St. Nicholas, and who was really Greek, by the way. The real true St. Nicholas was a Greek. But the Santa Claus we know, the Santa Claus, as his name was pronounced, is really connected to the god Odin. You would leave offerings to the gods to get their favor, you know. And one of those chief gods you wanted on your side was Odin, the boss of the other gods. So you would leave him things out, and that's where they also would do that with the wooden shoes. You know, the Dutch children would put the stuff in the wooden shoes, and then so they don't have stockings there; they have wooden shoes, and they would get their presents in the wooden shoes. But that was where that really originates from, the offering to the gods.
Man, you can't fit as many toys and candy into a wooden shoe as you can a big old stocking. See, I think
Yeah.
like a kid. I got to think about how much we can shove in those stockings over there, okay, for fun stuff. Now, I do. Okay, so somebody in the chat had a really interesting statement, and it said Satan's cause instead of Santa Claus. Let's see if I can find that. It said Satan's. I think it was Ron. I'm trying to find it, y'all. Here it is, Ron. Hey, Ron. Satan's Claus. So Santa is an anagram. Can be an anagram for Satan. Satan. What do you think about that, Dennis?
Well, actually, the name Santa, it's really pronounced Santa, Sinta. Santa Claus means, actually, if you go back to the actual root of the word, it means Saint Nicholas. Claus, Saint Nicholas. That's where that really comes from. I don't know about this anagram about Satan. That's kind of a far stretch. But
It is.
actually,
I'm
the
just putting it
name
out there.
means Saint Nicholas is what he really means, but that's the way they pronounce it. Santa Claus, Saint Nicholas.
Oh, okay. Very interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's cool. I just put it out there because I
Well,
I've read that somewhere.
Saint Nick lived in Turkey, but he was Greek. He was of Greek extraction. I have a friend in Greece, and I say that we've got Santa Claus, but you had him first. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I can't remember if I brought this up yet or not. Okay, but in some of the old artwork of Krampus, Krampus is actually down on a knee proposing to women. Okay, what is that about? Why would he be depicted proposing to women? Almost like making
Well,
fun of their husbands.
it's sort of
Mhm.
the interesting thing about Satan. He is known to be a seducer of women. Okay,
Okay,
that was sort of their weakness, you might say, and that was the way they looked at it. That women could be seduced easier than men, which is not true, but that's what they believed. And so you said you had to, if you were a woman, you had to really, really watch out for Satan because he tricked the first woman, Eve. So you were still, fertile ground for him. So you had to be very careful when it came to the devil, if you were a woman, especially.
oh my gosh, hide your kids, hide your wife, right? It's
Yeah.
watch out for Krampus. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so better lock those doors on Christmas night just in case.
Yeah. Just in case. Yeah.
Just in case Krampus comes in. You don't want him to go hit on
Yeah.
your wife. Okay. That's a terrible
But
thought.
now Saint Nicholas is actually the patron saint of sailors, policemen, and children, of course. Saint Nicholas is a true person. He really did live, and let me tell you real quick why he got a thing for gifts. Okay,
Okay.
he actually was a very wealthy man. He was blessed with wealth, and he wanted to share his wealth. He was a very godly man, and he found out about this man who had three daughters. This poor guy, he was a very poor farmer. His farm was failing him. He had his three very pretty daughters, and he was going to sell them into prostitution
Oh,
to make money on
ew,
them. Yeah. And well, St.
terrible.
Nicholas heard about this, okay? So he dropped 3 bags of gold, one for each of the daughters, down the chimney. And somehow or another, they got in their stockings that were hanging by the chimney. And the bags of gold were found on Christmas Day in the stockings, and that's where all that began. Santa Claus and the chimney and all that. He supposedly saved them from being sold into slavery or prostitution. He was a very good man in that respect. He wanted to. Here's the thing about Santa Claus or Saint Nicholas, he represents the goodness in people's heart of wanting to give instead of receiving. Um, Krampus, on the other hand, he gets. He receives. He doesn't want to give. He receives, and you don't want him to receive you, without a doubt.
No, no, absolutely not. No, we have so many people in the chat tonight. They're talking about Elf on the Shelf and Snoop on the
No,
Stoop.
yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah,
I'll tell
I
you
like
something about the
Snoop.
elf on the shelf. I think he may be a FBI or CIA plant. Okay, I'm not too sure about that. I'm checking on it though.
Are you serious? The Elf on the Shelf?
He's helping Santa somehow or another. I know that. And Santa may be the secret head of the CIA. I'm not sure about that either.
Yeah.
Later
Well,
in the tater.
well, okay, so Vader and a Tater, right? Well, the elves that come, the Elf on the Shelf that does come, and we have an Elf on a Shelf here that shows up at my house every year, and it really is a good spy. They're actually spies. And
A lot of people said
it
he's
does
very
help.
creepy looking. He's sitting there staring and watching you all the time. Kind of creeps you out a little bit.
Yeah, but it actually does help. Just like Krampus, the Elf on the Shelf will help kids straighten up, shape up or ship out. Okay, that's what my parents used to say. Shape up or ship out, because Santa Claus is coming, and if you don't behave, that elf's going to see and going to report back to Santa. It's a snitch.
Hey, he's a
Yeah,
spy.
my son always says snitches get stitches. Okay, whenever that elf shows up. So, but yeah, he'll be under the threat of Krampus this year too.
Well,
So.
supposedly, according to Christian Christmas tradition, the elves help Santa by spying on the kids. Okay, Santa can't be everywhere at once. Although I said he was the original superhero. Okay, the guy could do it all. That was way before Superman or Batman or anybody showed up. There was Santa Claus. Okay, but he is elves. That was part of their job. They were to watch little kids, spy on kids, and make sure who was naughty or who was nice. Well, the Krampus also has elves doing that. They're the bad elves, and they're watching the bad kids, and they're reporting back to Krampus. Okay, folks. So you want to watch out.
Oh yeah. Yes, well, it's a fun tradition to have these elves out here, and it's I mean, I'm assuming it's a fun tradition to have Krampus over there in the different countries. I mean, there are certain countries that celebrate Krampus a little bit more than others, I guess, or that acknowledge Krampus. I think it's more Austria, Bavaria, like in Germany and stuff, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Croatia, the Czech Republic, Hungary, Romania, and Northern Italy. That's my little trivia right there.
There's also a Christmas witch in northern Italy, by the way. Fonana, I think her name is. Very strange tradition. Also, I mentioned earlier in Spain, Krampus is actually not called Krampus in Spain. He is called Black Peter, and it's actually been culturally counseled now because people would actually show up in blackface and be him in parades and stuff. And of course, that was very racist, and so they stopped doing that. But Black Peter was called that because he was supposed to be a Moor who would row a boat over to Spain and kidnap little bad kids and take them back and work them in his coal mine. And he was also called Black Peter because, of course, he had black coal dust all over him as well. But he's kind of canceled now because he was kind of a racist symbol. People were doing the blackface things and the parades and all that. So they've stopped that now. So he may be called Krampus from now on in Spain, I guess.
Well, that kind of sucks. I'm just saying, I know he was covered in soot. Okay, so I know we're just, we live in a different world, a different culture, different, So yeah, it's it is what it is. It is what it is.
Well,
but covered in soot, that's the worst thing ever, to get covered in soot, by the way.
Look who else is covered in soot. Santa Claus. He comes down the chimney, of course. Yeah, there you go. There's the other similarity as well.
That's right. Cryptoville has a good point too. Hey, Cryptoville. He says, interesting connection to the whole child abduction thing and other stuff going on today. That's a great point. Yeah.
I've also heard correlation between that and alien abduction as well. What's going on with that? Here's the interesting thing, Jessica, about that. The fairy abduction, the Krampus abductions and stuff like that. And you could also look upon Krampus as being some type of a fairy-like creature as well, or the Fae. But here's an interesting correlation between that and alien abduction. We have that now in the modern world, alien abduction and stuff like that, and even child abduction going on with a lot of these, rings that are kidnapping children. You've got that going on in the world today. So now it's no longer fairies and Krampus that's going to grab you. It could be somebody worse in that respect.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, I always say I'm a little more concerned about humans today than I am cryptids. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We live in a really crazy world. Really crazy world right now. So
That's what I said not long ago on my podcast. We grew up as kids watching monster movies and knowing about the monsters, Frankenstein, and all the rest of them. But we grew up to find out one very startling fact: the monsters are real, but they are us, and that's what we have to really watch out for.
we are the embodiment of Saint Nicholas and Krampus. It depends on if I have my coffee in the morning. I could be Krampus. I could be crabby. But not. I don't like to see myself as being demonic if I hadn't had coffee. Okay, I'm not. It's not that bad.
You're Krampus till you get the coffee, and then you're Santa Claus.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, this is a
here's the big thing. Being a parapsychologist, I like to look at what this effect has on the human mind. Okay, and here's the interesting thing: the symbolism going on here. Okay, look at the good attributes of Santa Claus versus the Krampus. Okay, those are really personifications of human nature. There's a good side of us, and there's a bad side of us. There's a Santa side of us, and there's a Krampus side of us. So let's hope that we keep the Santa side on the top, okay, where it needs to be, and not the other way around.
Yeah, there's always it seems like an inversion or something to it. So, which we have not really recognized here in the United States where we live. But however, we have people from all over the world in our chat right now. I'm pretty sure I don't see Jorgen in here tonight. Okay. But we have people from all over that watch our shows that tune into Spaced Out Radio every night, every weekend, every weekday. And so I'm sure there's some people that grew up fearing Krampus when they were kids that are watching this, Dennis. And I am just very thankful I was not one of those.
Yeah.
Very, very thankful. So, yeah, well,
absolutely.
Oh my gosh, Dennis, this is crazy. We've come to the end of the hour almost. Do we have any
really?
final? Oh. It goes by so fast when we're having fun. It really does.
I know it. It really does.
It does. Amazing. Do you have final thoughts on Krampus? And because I know that you went over how we can, get rid of Krampus, and I've never heard that before. This is brand new information.
Well, the number one way to keep Krampus out of your house, okay? If you're worried about Krampus showing up, is mistletoe hung over your doors. Okay, the front and your back doors, or how many doors you have, always hang mistletoe over them. It's a venerated holy wood. It's supposedly Krampus hates it. Okay, without a doubt. And if you have that hanging in your house, you probably won't get a visit from him. Okay, so go get you some mistletoe.
Get some mistletoe and stay locked and loaded. Just kidding.
It's better. It's not only just for kissing under. Okay, it's keeping out Krampus as well.
Oh my gosh, it is. Okay, so mistletoe is a great way to keep Krampus away. And plus, I mean, he won't come into your house if you don't have kids, right?
Right. Yeah. Hopefully, if you got kids though, you might be open territory for him if you're not careful. But the mistletoe, actually, mistletoe is against all evil spirits, and Krampus is definitely an evil spirit. I always keep mistletoe over my doors. It's sort of a safeguard there. But yeah, definitely, it's not just for kissing anymore. It's for Krampus. Keep it out, Krampus.
Yeah, getting that Hollywood stick, the Hollywood, and yeah, you got to fight back with these things, okay? And you're also a demonologist, Dennis. So I thought this was a really cool topic for you to come on here tonight to talk about, because you deal with demonology and people who are possessed and things like this. So great discussion tonight, Dennis. I appreciate you being here tonight.
Oh, my pleasure, always.
Very much so. Well, I have a kid, so I got to worry about Krampus now. Okay, just a little bit. So, Dennis, tell the audience tonight where they can find you, and tell everybody about your YouTube channel and your podcast.
Okay, well, you can reach me if you got some Krampus stories or whatever you want to discuss. You can reach me at denniswcarroll.com, or you can email me at denniswcarroll@gmail.com. And I'm on Demonology Today every Sunday night with Grizzly Chris at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm also on every Wednesday night at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Hunting the Shadows. And I also have another podcast that I have every Friday night at 8 o'clock called Paranormal Point of View.
Yes. Amazing shows too. I really enjoy watching all your shows, and I really enjoy it when you come on and hang out with me, Dennis. That's my favorite, actually, is when you're over here
Always
hanging out with
enjoy.
me. Yes, thank you. We have some great discussions and talk about some really cool stuff. So, Dennis, thank you so much for being here. Everybody, please go over to Hunting the Shadows on YouTube and please subscribe and check out Dennis. Okay. Dennis, have a wonderful Christmas. If I don't see you again here at Spaced Out Radio, please have a wonderful, happy holiday. And thank you for coming on and telling us how to get rid of Krampus. You're the best, Dennis.
Thank you.
Okay, have a great night. Thanks, Dennis. Okay, y'all. Oh my gosh, what a cool show. Okay, we had to throw Krampus in there before the end of the year. I just have a couple of more shows here at Spaced Out Radio before the end of the year, and I wanted to make an announcement tonight. I am going to be on Spaced Out Radio one night a weekend from here on out. I'm going to be doing Sunday nights here off the trails on Spaced Out Radio. Okay, I have a bunch of brand new projects that I'm working on, and I'm expanding my horizons a little bit. And so I'm going to be here every Sunday night with you guys for a while. Okay. And so I just wanted to let you guys know, and I'll be doing more shows on my channel too. Okay. So you guys go, if you haven't already, please go over to the Cryptid Huntress on YouTube. Please subscribe over there so you guys can always follow along with all of my shows. And you'll find me there. I got some other announcements. I'm not going to make them tonight. But I got some other stuff that's about to be coming up too. So this is my last Saturday night here at Spaced Out Radio. But I will be here tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, we have Rod Nichols of Bear County Bigfoot is going to be on here. He's been featured on Small Town Monsters and the Dogman Triangle. Okay. And so we're going to be talking about Texas Bigfoot and Texas Dogman. He's had encounters with both. Okay. So we have a super awesome show tomorrow night for you guys lined up. And I can't wait to come back here and see you guys again. I hope you guys have a wonderful night. Please stay safe out there, y'all. And I hope you learned as much as I did tonight about the Christmas demon. Okay. Well, y'all have a great night. And I'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye.